Hello, everybody, and welcome to another podcast. My name is JJ Vola. Alongside here's my co-host Cal. Today we have a special episode as we have Isaac on our podcast. We're gonna kind of find out what Isaac does. It sounds like he does a bunch of multiple things, but give us a little taste of what you do, Isaac. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here, fellas.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, my name's Isaac. I live in Niagara, Ontario, Niagara on the Lake. I would say I'm a marketer by trade. That's kind of like my deep skill that I've focused on. But I've used that to just do entrepreneurial things, start businesses, do a lot of consulting work now. And yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Sounds broad, but
no
that's
worries.
the thing.
We'll be the little investigator and we'll find out exactly what you do and ask the right questions.
Sounds
But let's start your younger years of being workforce. Coming out of high school, I'm sure you had a first job. Where did you start? Let's talk about the journey.
Yeah, so in high school, I'm saying this because I heard Spence say his first job, so I want to say my first job.
Little side note: Spencer and Isaac, previous guests, they're friends. And
Yeah.
Even another side note: actually, Isaac and I go way back.
Super far back.
Yeah.
Cal's probably gonna come up in this story once or twice.
Yeah.
But going back to my very first job, like what I feel was my first job was slinging pizzas at Pizza Hut.
Nice.
That was a blast, man. Just being in grade 9 and making pizza.
I love Pizza Hut, dude.
Yeah.
This is not an ad.
Yeah.
It's not a plug.
It was Pizza Hut / Taco Bell.
In Waterdown.
So yeah,
Oh.
there was a couple pretty cool guys in there, and we'd switch over to each other's side, make some crazy tacos, and yeah, it was fun. So that was kind of my first job, and then did random stuff like refereeing soccer and classic little jobs like that. Worked at Tea at the White House for a bit. You remember that place in Waterdown?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sister used to work there.
Washed dishes there.
Really? Yeah, Chanel used to work there.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. No way. I didn't know you both worked there.
Yeah.
Wow. True. I don't know you that well.
we go way back.
Like probably worked together.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah,
dude.
maybe we did.
True.
I'm trying to remember. But yeah, did that, and then what else? That's pretty much it for like my kind of first jobs.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Nope.
So then, did you go to school for anything in particular?
Yeah, so I didn't. So come grade 12, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. I would say, yeah, maybe like halfway through grade 12, I got really serious about my faith, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Had a mentor in my life who I trusted a lot, and he's like, dude, you're going to be a pastor. And I'm like, no way. Like, definitely no shot, but just thought on it, and I ended up moving up to Thunder Bay for a whole year, my first year after high school. Tried working at a church there and trying to decide if that was kind of the path for me. Eventually decided that it wasn't, came back after a year and went into landscaping, man, until I figured it out. And yeah.
Cool. How was landscaping? Probably a hard job, eh?
Loved it, man.
Oh yeah.
It's I miss it all the time. I tell Kyle sometimes on the phone, I see guys like cutting the grass on my street. I want to go volunteer a couple hours a week, man. It's
Just want
awesome.
to rip the mower, right?
Cal was actually over when the landscaper was over. I love going out there and like hanging out with him and stuff. I'm probably so annoying, but I just miss those days so much.
Sure. Yeah.
So then,
Yeah.
why didn't you become a landscaper? No.
So yeah, dude, very good point. I don't know why. I think I wanted to back then aspire to do something that I thought was a little bit more creative. Flash forward, now I'm sitting here like, wow, I would love to work with my hands somewhere. I was building a barbecue on the back deck yesterday. It was like the most fun I've had working outside on the back deck in so long, and I'm like, wow.
So you're a hands-on kind of guy.
I'm actually technically not, but I want to be more
Yeah, you
of
want
one.
to be more. Yeah.
Sure.
Seeing you work on that car out front, got
Yeah.
the wheels turning a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll have to invite him over sometimes. Eh?
Yeah. And we've even talked about this, like people that work like, on the computer all day, they like, man, I just want to work with my hands. I want to feel, tools and like figure out stuff and all that kind of stuff. And it's so true, man. I mean, we've talked about this a bunch that,
Yeah.
just want to like do something physical with my hands and figure stuff out. So, yeah.
And I think you and I have had good chats too. I got a buddy who's an accountant using his mind all day. And he was telling me about a bunch of studies where they would look at people that use their hands, and one of the greatest forms of rest for them was to like work behind a computer on something like that, doing graphic design or something. And vice versa. Like the people who are just crunching numbers all day, like an accountant, one of the most restful things they could do is like go home and on the weekend do some carpentry work or like build a table or something, and it's still work at the end of the day. But that's actually one of the ways that you can recharge the batteries a bit, is just using a different side of your brain and doing a different form of work.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes so much sense. Wow. 100%.
It's just even like learning to, like, you break something, you learn how to fix it. You know, instead of paying somebody to come over and waste a bunch of money. You know, there's people who want to do the hands-on stuff, but then sometimes it's also, you got to think of buying the tools, and you got to think of buying all the extras, which sometimes it might just be easier just to pay somebody to come over and do the work, right? But so you did landscape. How long did you do that for?
I would have done that for maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it go through the winter? Like, how does it work for landscape in the wintertime?
Yeah, so I actually was one of the guys that did like the snow removal too in the winter. So originally I was working for a guy that I used to go to church with, and he had started a company. And then when I went off to Thunder Bay, like I would do snow removal in the winter during high school sometimes. And then when I went off to Thunder Bay, a larger landscaping company bought him. So when I came back, I ended up working in this larger company doing snow removal. And they were called, my division was property enhancement, it was called. So essentially I was just the guy that was running around fixing everything. So if like the maintenance crew left a house and there was like a brick off or something like that, or they might have like taken out a big chunk of sod or something, like I'm the guy that would get the call to go drive there and essentially fix anything that the maintenance guys broke.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you dealt with like customer complaints and making sure that they were like super happy and all that kind of stuff. By the end of it?
I got the lucky end of the stick because I was always the guy coming to fix the thing that people were ticked off about. But I got all the glory in the end every time. But yeah, unless I had to come back a second time because my fix-it job ended up making it worse. That might happen once or twice.
So I broke something else while I was trying to fix the original thing.
I remember being at a house in Tyendega to resod a bunch of the grass.
Yeah.
And this was like before Thanksgiving weekend or something. So it was like pretty pressing because this lady wanted it to look actually decent. And this house was like in a little bit of a valley, so it was super sludgy and muddy. I finally finish up, and there's like this little roundabout driveway they have. Yeah. And I pull the truck around. I'm not a truck guy, man. This truck was way too big for me to drive. And the tire just goes all the way through the new sod job I had just done. It just creates a whole new tire truck. I'm sitting there on like a Friday afternoon being like, what am I doing? So that was a time I didn't do my job very well.
Did you have to go back and fix it, or?
Yeah, the next week.
Yeah. I love it. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. And that was your last job before what you got into today?
Yeah. So while I was doing that job, I kind of, and it wasn't like I was coming back from that job at that church thinking like I want to be a landscaper. It was kind of like an interim thing for me in my mind until I figured things out. But while I was landscaping, I was kind of using the money from that to start my first business with my girlfriend, who's now my wife. That was called Let It Thrive. And that was just like your classic first business, apparel business.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah, we were doing like all of our profits were going towards microfinancing, mostly in Colombia. So we partnered with this really cool charity called Opportunity International, where they were giving out microloans to people, like $250 that would help somebody start a business. And as soon as that's paid back, it goes to fund the next thing. So you like one loan could fund like 7-8 businesses over a course of a decade. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
So I was trying to get that going, man. And just through that kind of little venture, I started realizing like I love the marketing side of this thing. I loved like going and trying to find that charity to partner with and building that relationship. I love that part of it. And so I was able to just learn a ton of things that I liked and wanted to get better at kind of through that. And I think I was still running that when we met a little bit.
I think I have a Let It Thrive sweater.
Okay, let's go.
I think I definitely, yeah, that's when we met. You were running that, and then you were on to kind of the next thing. But that's how I met you.
Yeah.
I think that was like the can opener for us to like start chatting and all that kind of stuff.
Was that before Motive?
So I had already done Motive way back in the day, and then you were telling me about Let It Thrive, and I'm like, oh man, like I started a clothing company too called Motive Society, and it kind of had like a deeper meaning to the line than just clothing and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's how we kind of like really connected. Yeah. And then started chatting and whatnot.
You were definitely a lot further along. Like there's a bunch of things that happened for me in between Let It Thrive and meeting you, but when we met, you were more than the motive guy to me, because you had Bubble Force going, like, in the co-working space. You were the guy with the private office. I'm like, oh, I can hardly afford a hot desk. Like, this guy must be crushing it.
It's all about perception.
So I
couldn't afford it.
I don't think I saw. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, I definitely didn't see you as the motive guy, but we definitely connected on it, because I was like trying to keep this thing going, and you had like done that before. So
Sure.
yeah, but you definitely weren't just the motive guy when I met you.
Yeah. So we met at the Burlington Hive,
Yeah.
which used to be a co-working space in Burlington, just off Guelph line. And yeah, man, we just like ran into each other one day at the office. And
Greg introduced us.
Yeah,
That's actually a story.
right. Yeah,
How I met Greg and then got intro to you.
Sure.
Because I think Greg was trying to help you sell bubble events and stuff like that.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, you got to meet this guy." Actually, dude, this is a story worth telling.
Yeah, let's hear
The
it.
Greg thing.
Yeah.
So essentially, I quit landscaping, decided to go to college for marketing, and like after a semester, I had this one mentor that, while I was going to college for marketing, kind of gave me my first like digital marketing client. It was this law firm in Toronto. So I'm doing that and Let It Thrive at the same time, and I'm like, man, I really don't like this school thing. Like, I feel like I'm learning way more just working for this one law firm. And that's when I was driving down Guelph line one day, and it was like a Saturday afternoon, so it was closed. I didn't realize that, but I pulled up because I wanted to tour it, because I'd see those smart cards out front. You remember those?
Yeah.
Their smart card marketing actually worked, dude. Like, they actually drew attention and pulled me in.
Wow.
So I go up to the door, I'm trying to get it, it's locked. And I go back to my car, and as I'm walking to my car, this little Honda pulls up beside me, and this like dude who looks like an absolute prince with the best flow you've ever seen gets out, puts on his sunglasses like it's the coolest thing. And it was Greg. And so he like brings me in for a full tour. He's getting me all excited about like, because at that time I was really seeking community. Like, I felt like, oh man, I'm trying to do these things. I want to own my own business. I'm trying to get these going. I just felt so isolated. This is why I felt it was important to tell this part of my story, because I just knew like getting in community and getting around these guys was so crucial. And so Greg gave me a tour. We ended up going out that night because we found out we actually lived like 2 streets down from each other and didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then at that point, he started telling me about this guy named Cal, and I'm like, this guy must be legit, man, because he's got staff, he's got a private office, runs a bubble socket company. That's crazy.
You definitely sell yourself short.
And yeah, he kind of told me what you guys do with motive and stuff too. So
Sure.
yeah, I thought that part was important, because like, if you're a young guy, like, you want to go into business and stuff, that was just one of the best calls I ever could have made, was rolling up to the Halton Hive and just making the decision. It's like, I don't have to do this all on my own. Like, I could be around other motivated, like-minded people. And yeah, it was one of the best decisions of my life. Like, so much has come out of that still today.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, going back to co-working, like it's one of the coolest things, you know, and there was a massive run on co-working. Like, it was the biggest thing kind of going on for like small entrepreneurs, freelancers, like people just trying to start a business and get around like-minded people and whatnot. And I started my first co-working spot was actually because of Greg too, and it was called Platform 302, and it was in Hamilton on Cumberland Avenue. And dude, the amount of people I met there and the friends I have now today in business and all that kind of stuff were from Platform 302. And the reason why I went to the Burlington Hive later on was because of my experience at Platform. And obviously from that, I met you, I met a ton of different people. So big shout out to like co-working spaces.
Yeah, man.
They obviously got hit pretty hard like during COVID and all that kind of stuff, like a lot of businesses, but it's such a cool thing, man. Like that community, having events for people to get together and network and all that kind of stuff, and just trying to, you know, meet different people and all that. So massive shout out to like Burlington Hive and yeah, all the boys that run those co-working spaces. So yeah.
So then that's how you got into marketing then.
Yeah, I got into marketing because I was in school for it.
Right.
Where'd you go to school?
Sheridan.
Okay.
And
how long was that course for?
that was supposed to be a 3-year course that you could like turn into a 4. But I mean, I lasted a semester, and yeah, the guy.
Why is that?
So the guy that was my mentor at the time, he was an awesome guy and just super like crazy how he came into my life. God just like totally brought this guy into my life for a ton of reasons at the time. But yeah, he kind of like made me promise like if I start getting you off the ground, you got to finish your school, and I actually didn't, which is a huge regret because I'm like I kind of like bailed on my word there, but he was essentially the guy that was like, okay, you're in school for this traditional marketing thing. Um like you really need to focus on the digital side of these things too. He was like a very traditional advertising guy. Built like some pretty big ad agencies back in the day, and even he like telling me like this digital thing is the next thing. Like none of these agencies are thinking like it sounds crazy for us, like because that's just by default. Like I'm gonna boost this post and run some Insta ads. Like that's just like second nature for anybody, and you can get so strategic with stuff like that beyond all that, but everybody knows about that. And back when I was coming in all this, it was like not a lot of people were thinking about digital marketing. So him kind of gearing me in that direction and giving me an outlet, this law firm in Toronto to really help get started and kind of use as a sandbox to learn was the biggest thing for me, man. So that'll kind of help you make sense of like I was in for this traditional marketing thing, but I wasn't learning the digital that I really wanted and would have needed. And I just felt like at the time it was time to give a break to this because I didn't want to spend the most. I felt like it was a really critical time in marketing where it's like I could spend the next 3 or 4 years learning traditional stuff and then have to start learning digital from the ground up.
Sure.
Or I could spend the next 3 or 4 years learning the digital side. And by the time it's done, no one's going to care if I have a degree or not because they're all going to be thinking digital first anyways.
Sure.
So,
sure.
yeah. Now I think you could go for a specific like digital marketing program.
Yeah.
Might be different. Yeah, or even another school. I think it was just my context too at Sheridan. I don't know, but yeah.
What is? How did they used to market before? Like, what is traditional marketing before
A
social?
lot of SWOT analysis, dude.
Strength,
a
weakness,
lot of
opportunity.
SWOTs. And I remember like sitting in some courses, like some of the courses I'd take, I'd be like driving to Hazel McCallion, like Square One, Mississauga, just to like learn how to use Microsoft Excel and stuff. And it's like, okay, this is cool, and I definitely feel blessed to be able to get an education and stuff. But ultimately, at the end of the day, like, am I wasting time here, or could I get going a little quicker? And not just quicker, like it wasn't even just a patience thing for me. It was actually the fact that I knew like in 3 or 4 years everything's going to be digital, and I'm going to be sitting here while everybody else is learning that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Do you want to advertise in the newspaper, sir? Like, I think you could really get some good views
I
on
know.
that. Good engagement.
That's ridiculous today, eh?
Yeah, it's changed so much, right?
Yeah.
Like, in the schools, like, can they keep up with that change and really kind of, be able to educate? I mean, they don't even, at that time, they probably didn't even understand what digital marketing was going to be. It was going to be a job. It was going to be a whole career, like, and it was going to change the landscape of advertising and all that kind of stuff. So it's, yeah, I mean, I think you're right on the money with that.
Because, I mean, what would have been the outcome if you had finished the school? Just a diploma, and that was it, pretty much, right?
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you like where that would have gone, man. And I'd say like sitting in these shoes now, I've never missed out on anything because I didn't have it. No, I don't have like a degree or something to see if I went on the offense with it, where it could go. But at the same time, it's like I've never felt the need to. Like I've never felt a stress about it. I think maybe one day going back and trying to like finish it to say that I finished it would be a nice thing to do. And also because I told this guy I would. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see, man. If it was for marketing or something else, I don't know what that would be. But
Sure.
at this point, I haven't necessarily felt any kind of burden from not completing that.
Yeah. So let's talk about your day-to-day. Like, what does your day look like today? Like, what do you do for marketing? What companies do you reach out to? All that kind of stuff. Like, give us the rundown of your everyday life working.
Yeah, so nowadays, I have like very few clients. Like I built an agency in the middle of all that. Got it like going pretty good. Again, I started that with my now wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. I did have a job that I did after. I don't know if I should mention that, but
Sure.
kind of this may be a good example of I actually didn't need a degree to get a corporate job. So I have done the like corporate thing for like 3 years. I worked at Crossroads. So while I was kind of learning all this, I left college, went on my own, started doing my own clients and stuff, and then got a job at Crossroads Media, which is funny because the Halton Hive ended up buying the Crossroads building, which was where my office was while I was working there. So then all these people I knew from the Hive ended up coming into the new building that I was at. It was pretty cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah.
But essentially, I worked there as a digital strategist, and that was my first job. Like trying to work in a big team. I think they have like 150 people there, and working on very traditional media brands and helping them go digital. So I did that, and then I left that to start my own agency with Haley. And we got that to maybe like, we weren't like crazy huge compared to a lot of people, but at the peak we probably had like 8 or 9 accounts on retainer that we were doing Instagram marketing for, and then we were building websites too, so it was a really cool thing. Had a couple people working with us, and then essentially what happened was one of our clients ended up getting, we might have got a little too big, and they ended up offering Haley a job just because she's super killer at what she does. Like, she's so good creatively and working with influencers and stuff like that. So he's actually a buddy of mine that owns the company. He offered her a job, and we said, look, like, we're thinking about getting married. Let's maybe separate our work a little bit. This could be a good opportunity for that. And so I kind of chose the 4 or 5 clients I wanted to walk away with and keep, because I had to keep the lights on at the time.
Yeah.
Sure.
But ultimately the rest that Haley was really overseeing, and the 2 people that she was kind of working with to get all that work done, we ended up telling the clients that they were working with, like, hey, things are kind of changing around here, and it was a hard thing, but had to kind of toss them off to people that I felt could do it better and try to leave the situation well. But yeah, I kind of walked away with 4 or 5 clients and just worked with them on a consulting basis, and that's kind of what I've kept on doing up until this point. I've gotten involved in a couple really cool startups now, getting into solar stuff, getting really into Bitcoin.
Oh, cool.
But I still do some consulting work with like 3 people.
When you say consulting, is that consulting specifically for marketing or how to market?
Yeah, so usually it would be. Now it's kind of getting more into like strategy and growth, and even just like technology strategy and stuff like that too. So like even just working with blockchain technology, like I have this one charity client. I was just in Ukraine with them, and they're having huge issues getting funds into Ukraine, and wire transfers aren't going through. We only bring $10,000 cash each, and I'm sitting here like, well, I like Bitcoin. We should try to use crypto to do that. And so going over there and setting up all the systems to like start sending more crypto in and liquidating it. So it always starts as a marketing thing for me, to answer your question, but then that's kind of like the foot in the door to working on some of these other problems as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
And just like hearing of problems and just being like, man, I feel like there's a way that could be solved, right?
Yeah.
Like, and obviously that's a massive problem for Ukraine. They need a ton of help right now, all that kind of stuff. And being like, damn, like, can't get money. Like, people are trying to help as much as they can. And there's a bottleneck that's obviously is a massive problem. I mean, they need funding, they need help. And crypto is one of the ways that you can do that. So what are you kind of setting up in the Ukraine to do that?
Yeah, so there it's a lot different. So like I also just got back from Guatemala. We were talking about that, and these are places where the adoption rate has just gone through the roof, specifically because most people are unbanked there. In Ukraine, it's different because they don't trust the bank.
Mm-hmm.
In places in Central and South America, it's different because they just literally don't have access to a bank, like 70% of the population. So going to a place like Ukraine's different because, I mean, I walk to any street corner and there's going to be an in-person, it's called an over-the-counter exchange, where I can walk up there with my wallet, choose whatever kind of crypto I want to liquidate, and they'll give me cash on the spot for it without having to give my identity, verify, anything. So if you're somebody who's like really needing cash, but you don't want to go through a banking system that's been corrupt in the past, you can do so with crypto. So
That's nuts. So not people, they don't have access to a bank, but they have access to a cell phone.
yeah,
Essentially,
everybody, man.
everybody has a cell phone, and that's how they're exchanging money and funds and all that kind of stuff. That's nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us about Guatemala. Like, that's
Guatemala is
you,
awesome.
you just got back. Where is Guatemala?
I know.
Guatemala would
Geography
be
lesson.
like south of El Salvador,
Right. Okay.
a little south of Mexico.
Sure.
Okay.
How
So
far?
it's-
What's the flight like? there? How long?
Not long, dude. Like both times I've gone, I'm there in like 5 hours tops.
Okay.
That's not
Even
bad.
with a layover flight, like you just fly to Miami and get a connecting flight there. It's cheap and easy, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what was kind of the purpose of that trip? Like, so it's obviously Bitcoin related, but
Yeah.
um,
So Guatemala as a whole wouldn't be this interesting, but the place I was specifically, it's a lake called Lake Atitlan, deepest lake in Central America. They also happen to be building what's called a circular economy, and these things are starting to pop up all over the world in these countries I'm talking about that are unbanked. And these are communities that are literally like living off Bitcoin, man. Like I think I paid in fiat twice, and fiat being like a US dollar or something like that, at major hotels and stuff. But the rest, like merchants are accepting Bitcoin, they keep it in Bitcoin, they exchange services in Bitcoin. Like everything's just kind of running off that because it's their first exposure to any kind of digital funds.
Now, why do you think that like digital currency isn't yet all in the U.S. or Canada?
We don't need it, man. Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
true.
need it.
mhm.
I mean, I could send you an e-transfer right now.
Yeah, true.
Like,
True.
why?
Oh, yeah.
Why would we feel the need for it? You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to tell people. It's like that's why I had to go to these countries and kind of see outside the scope a little bit, because it's like, man, if we're talking about Bitcoin here in Canada or the US, it's all like, what are the gains going to be over the next 2 or 3 years and stuff. But until I start working with this charity and helping them get resources into Ukraine and actually seeing the need for it, I'm like, man, this changes everything because it's actually a practical use case. I got a guy that works for me in Dominican Republic, even a guy in Atlanta, Georgia, and I pay them in crypto because that's literally the easiest way to get them funds. I don't have to do all this W-9 paperwork and stuff like that, send wire transfers, and it's just really practical, man.
So it just makes sense. We don't need it. We have banks. We have access to money, ways to send money around, and these other countries are obviously having issues with that. So it's a great solution that's anyone with a cell phone can have Bitcoin and use it
Yeah.
to acquire services, products, all that kind of stuff.
And
So-
there's things happening, like, I don't know if you guys have heard of like the Lightning Network that makes everything very instant, right? So a lot of these things wouldn't have even been a possibility 2 years ago, because depending on what the network's looking like, transferring Bitcoin could take like anywhere from 10 minutes to 2 hours, right? And I could kind of show you guys now if you want.
Wow.
That's an idea.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, we should do that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I mean, if
You
you're
got your
listening on the podcast, make sure you go to YouTube. Okay.
It could be a cool. You got your phone?
My phone's over there, but you got your phone.
Okay, I'll show JJ.
Jesus.
Just how fast it is, man, because this blows people's minds. And then I'll also show you how they stabilize it over there as well, so that they don't have to worry about the volatility of Bitcoin.
Right.
Okay.
Do I have to download anything?
Yeah, so go to your app store there and download the Bitcoin Beach Wallet. Just type in the Bitcoin Beach Wallet.
Bitcoin Beach Wallet. Very practical on the podcast.
I love it. Bitcoin. What was it called?
The Bitcoin Beach Wallet.
Beach wallet.
Bitcoin Beach Wallet.
Yeah, and I still have a little
This
bit
one.
left in my. Yeah.
Okay.
That's.
Are you gonna send me some money?
Yeah, I'll say, I got some left in here.
First paid podcast. Yeah.
Paid advertising. Oh, we got
Please follow us on Patreon. No, we don't have Patreon. We don't have anything set up. Thinking about OnlyFans, but
Feet finder.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
go through that, and then just hit sounds good, and then hit receive, and it will ask you to just verify with your number.
True.
I want to be able to accept Bitcoin.
You should.
I wish. Where's my phone?
3, 7, 8. Okay.
There we go.
All right, so you're gonna hit receive now,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna go over to Bitcoin. So this is how you could receive it in stable US dollars, but we're gonna do Bitcoin, and this is over the Lightning Network. So this is a network that's built on top of the original Bitcoin blockchain to speed
Right.
things up. It doesn't need the verification that the regular blockchain would need.
Okay.
And so you could either tell me how much you want me to send. So like if you were a merchant, you could create an invoice from here
Mhm.
that says, hey, this coffee costs $3. This is what I'm making this QR code for. Or I could just do it here. So I would hit send. And then I'd scan your QR code.
No way, dude.
I'd say I want to put in, I'll send you $10. That's worth it.
Hey, you know what?
And then next, right? and
Pays
then
for lunch.
and then watch how fast it goes through.
Confirm payment.
Wow.
Instant.
Just like that.
And
Wow.
if you go back home,
Go back home.
you got $10 worth of Bitcoin right now.
Wow.
And if you're someone sitting there in Guatemala and you're like, man, I need this $10 to be $10 for the next week because I got to be able to buy food. If Bitcoin goes down, I'm sewered. You would essentially go to convert there and convert as much as you want into that stabilized US dollar.
No way, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
No way. Got it. Because, yeah, it's volatile. It goes up, it goes down. And they're like, oh, my God, like, what if it goes down and I don't have
like
this
for,
money?
for people in North America, like there's this term like a Bitcoin maxi. That's like I'm never using anything stable, or I'm only using Bitcoin. And it's like I totally understand where they're coming from because I have a bit of that mindset myself when it comes to crypto. But like for these people that are living over there where it's like, hey, I only have $5 a day to live off of, like if Bitcoin goes down 25% and I have that much less tomorrow, I might not be able to eat a meal. So that's why this is so key, man. And being able to stabilize and simplify things so quickly like that, like we were up and set up and I had Bitcoin too within 5 minutes. And so that's literally just like you would see a server type in the amount, they'd look at your receipt at the end of the meal, like talking here, type in the amount, put your debit card in. That's exactly how they do it. They'd create an invoice off of that. I'd scan the QR code and pay them on the spot. They're good to go.
Wow. That's crazy.
Now imagine
about-
imagine in a place like Ukraine or like Guatemala on top of this, there's ATMs everywhere where you could then go and like you could take out as much cash as you need to with your Bitcoin. You could go to an in-person, it like feels like you're going into a bank in Ukraine and like send them $100 worth of Bitcoin. They'll give you $100 worth of cash. Like just
No
a
way.
crazy thing going on in these places that we're not in.
Yeah. Now,
Sure.
would this benefit in Canada or the U.S. at all? Like this?
I don't see the use case for it yet for
Yeah.
us, man. Like I think I'm a big believer that everyone should hold some Bitcoin just if they can and if they can afford to. Like why not?
Right.
I think the reason I'm so bullish on it right now is because I've taken the time to go these places, and where my thoughts at is I don't care if it's El Salvador or Guatemala or Ukraine or these places so outside of our North American scope. If these places adopt it, it's going to do the exact same thing for Bitcoin, whether it's us or not. And so when I talk to people in North America that don't understand it, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't either if I didn't see the use case for it in my life. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if we're using it or if it's somewhere else in the world that we've never been to. Like if they're finding it useful, that drives value. And if there's demand, their supply is capped at 21 million at some point once all the Bitcoin's mined. It's a pretty good thing going on if you ask me.
I can't wrap my head around Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Like, if you could just give us a quick debrief of what is Bitcoin, how does it get mined, and all that.
Yeah, man. So I'm definitely sounding like a Bitcoin nut here.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But yeah, so essentially, like, you want to know about the mining process?
Yeah, like I'm just curious how that works.
How is Bitcoin mined?
I can share how I got into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You want it, like,
Sure.
Yeah, give it
So-
to us all.
Give us the layout.
just like I was saying, marketing's kind of that foot in the door skill. I got hired by a couple guys who own a mining co-location company, it's called. So essentially what that is, if you've got like 1,000 miners mining Bitcoin, you can't just do that in your house. It takes so much power. And in some places in the world, because of that, it's actually illegal. And so essentially these are people that would need to co-locate these mining rigs to like some kind of data storage facility up in North Bay or something like that to host it. And so I was working with these guys to do lead generation for them to find people with these large scale mining operations to bring into their data centers. And I had never heard of Bitcoin at all, man. I didn't understand these little computers, how stuff popping out. What are they even doing? I didn't understand. And so essentially all these miners are doing, because it's a peer-to-peer network, when I just sent you Bitcoin, somebody's got to verify that. And it was on the Lightning Network, so it's a little bit different. But if I just use actual Bitcoin as its core, because there's no bank to govern that I just sent JJ this currency, these miners are the ones that are doing that. And in exchange for the work that they're doing, there's a little bit of a transaction fee that happens. Like from me to you, they're rewarded with that transaction fee for verifying it for us. And then that goes onto the public blockchain. Like you could go to any blockchain Bitcoin website and see that transaction happened. But somebody ultimately had to verify it and confirm that, and all those miners are doing that work.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
And so mining is basically a device that uses like the internet to solve problems,
It's a computer, man.
solve a
It's
mathematical
called hashing. That's like
Hashing.
yeah.
Okay, and it's solving this problem sort of thing, and eventually once it comes up with a solution, it mines 0.0001.
Yeah, essentially what it's doing is it's verifying these transactions. I think that's the easiest way I can put it.
Okay,
Mm.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just still trying
Wow.
to figure out how does it get mined in the computer world, right? Because it's all electronic.
Yeah.
Right. But how is it getting mined from?
Oh, I
You know what I'm saying? Like I think of mining. Okay. Like I'm just
Like, bring
I'm
your
trying to,
shovel,
like,
boys.
I'm,
We're
yeah,
going.
I'm like,
Bring the pickaxe. It's time.
Yeah, I'm thinking like somebody's taking an axe and grabbing a piece of diamond out of the wall. When I think of
Sure.
mining, like,
Yeah.
is that obviously it's not the same context, but like
You're
how
mining for digital gold here, bro.
Yeah. What?
How much has been mined?
A lot. So I think it's at like just over 18.5 million Bitcoin.
It's 21 million.
Yeah.
Max.
But mind you, this hash rate gets more difficult with time. So like that much has been mined since 2009 or whatever. Like it might take, if they guess everything right, I think it's like 200 something years for all 21 million to be mined, because it's getting more difficult to do. So it's not all just like out there and ingested at one time.
Yeah.
Sure,
I might have to see like a map of all this because I am trying to understand, but I always
I'm
thought,
surprised Dan didn't come on here and explain it all, man.
because I'm trying to think like,
he really knows his stuff when it
He
comes to that.
does, yeah.
but is like the Bitcoin and like mining like a digital currency, is it like built through the stock market?
No, it has nothing to do with the stock market.
See, that's what I always thought. I thought stock market was essentially the currency that people were inflating digitally.
A lot of people would say that. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right. Okay.
But that's why.
At
But
least
that,
I'm not wrong.
But that's why. But that's why they would think that Bitcoin is a better option.
Right.
Two completely separate things, and it's like one is completely off.
I think
grid, and
where the
one is-
confusion might happen for a lot of people is like they go on their Wealth Simple app where they buy their stocks, and it's like, oh, I can buy Bitcoin now.
Right.
Right.
But you're
it
not
just-
buying a Bitcoin. You're just buying the
No.
stock of the currency or.
It's actually funny. So something like Wealth Simple, and I'm talking like an expert in this lane, I'm not. But something like a Wealth Simple, when you talk about Bitcoin, the whole goal is to be having self-custody, right? And so that is like, I want to own the wallet that this crypto lives in. And I say crypto, but really Bitcoin, because it's Bitcoin that people should focus on. With something like Wealth Simple, like I think even with stocks too, man, it's more of just a contract that you own this stock, or that I own this much Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
but they're actually the ones holding it. And technically, like in my mind, if you hold it, you own it, man. And that's why, like, I would be encouraging anyone who's got Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies on any kind of exchange, like a Wealth Simple or something, go get yourself like called ledger wallets, or like a cold wallet, it's called, and throw it all on there, because you don't truly own it if it's on some kind of platform like that. And this is part of the issue when you hear about things like FTX and stuff like that. It's exactly what happened, man. And people got sued because they didn't own their crypto.
Interesting.
So FTX, what happened there?
It wasn't a crypto problem, man. I'll tell you that for free.
Mm-hmm.
That was the banking model coming into the crypto game, where it's essentially FTX saying, like, I think we all know with banks, it's like they're not actually holding all the funds that they say they have in your account. They're out there investing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
how they're making money. And that's exactly what FTX was doing. Now, the problem was even more compounded because the founder of FTX, and I'm sure everyone's heard about all this, so they're sick of it, but the founder of FTX also owned the trading company that was trading all of the crypto that his exchange was supposed to be holding to back everything that it said it did.
Mm-hmm.
When those investments started tanking, that went public because people got a hold of how poorly those investments were doing. And when people get scared, they go to pull their funds out of the exchange, right? Because they don't own it. FTX owns it. And at that point, it's like, well, I've got nothing to back this anymore. And they can't get their funds out, and it's just a mess. And then they're filing bankruptcy, and everyone's lost their money. And yeah, essentially, it's just
Wow.
Like, you know, the story of like Lehman Brothers, like the classic, they got the bailout for this exact reason, right?
Yeah.
All these major banks getting bailed out. And I haven't been following the FTX story much more lately just because I've gotten so annoyed by it. I can't follow it or it ticks me off.
Right.
But I'm sure to get out of that situation, they'll need a bailout somehow. So, yeah.
True.
So a solution to that is having a cold wallet, take it off kind of their marketplace and put it in a safe place,
Yeah.
sort of thing. And what are examples of those cold wallets that people could put them in?
So even what I just sent you there, like I would never keep any large amount of crypto on just a regular wallet like that. Like the security for you to set that up so low.
Right.
So I would use that for like daily transact. I only had a bit left. That's why I was able to use it from my Guatemala trip. But if you're going to hold a ton of crypto, you're going to want to buy my favorite. It's called a Ledger wallet. It's not like the most advanced or the best. There's like hardcore ones out there. It's my favorite for like people that are just getting in the space that want to maintain some kind of security because the interface is really easy. And yeah, I think the website's Ledger Live. Ledger Live is the app, but the website might be Ledger Live too. Or if you just look up Ledger wallets, that's the best one to get.
Okay.
And that's truly owning your crypto, because a lot of people get this mixed up too. And this is something I'm learning lately as well. So this is new for me. Like that wallet, when you see someone walking around with a USB key, like that doesn't actually have Bitcoin on it. That's just the key to access the blockchain that says Isaac has this amount of crypto, which has been verified by all those miners that says Isaac has this much Bitcoin. Does that make sense?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So it's not like you're walking around with this ledger. It's like, I got a ton of Bitcoin on here. It's like, no, this is just the key to get into the blockchain to access that.
Wow.
Okay.
And how much is one Bitcoin?
I think today, I've been trying not to pay attention to price, man. Yesterday I looked, I think Canadian, it was like 36,000.
1,000 for one Bitcoin.
Yeah, let's see.
What was the highest it got to?
80.
80.
But that's
Wow.
USD. Yeah, it's 36,454 today.
Canadian?
Canadian. I don't
Canadian.
know what that is USD. Let's see.
Jesus, man. 80.
Doesn't matter, but
Wait.
Yes.
Okay, so from the stock market, that's how it's determined what it's worth per Bitcoin?
no, man.
Oh,
No, it has absolutely no association with the stock market.
okay.
I mean, you would see like it following certain market trends, just like everything. It's like not only are stocks down, everything's
Yeah, yeah.
down, except for some things.
Right. I need to learn more. Jeez, I'm under a bubble.
Yeah.
Dude, the thing is, I man, some of the guys I've been talking to lately, it makes me realize how little I know, and it's scary because I'm like, these guys are gonna run the world one day because they're just so smart. But
Wow. Okay.
yeah, so it's got no correlation to the stock market, man. It's completely its own thing.
But what makes it worth like 35, 36,000 today?
Yeah, so in my opinion, well, I mean, it's not even an opinion. It's like everything's built on supply and demand, right?
Right.
And so because the beauty of Bitcoin compared to other like coins and cryptos, and why I like it so much, it's got that hard cap. It's only going to be able to be 21 million existing at any point in time, even once it's all mined, right? And so if you've got more people wanting to buy Bitcoin than there is available, supply goes up, and then what happens? It's like, yeah, the price is going to go up, or sorry, demand's going to go up,
Right.
and the supply stays the same, so the value is going to go up.
True.
Sure.
Jeez. Okay.
And then if more people demand it, obviously the price is going up because everybody wants it and they can't, you
Yeah.
know, the price will keep. Yeah.
And this is why a lot of people, including myself, would say everything else follows the price of Bitcoin in terms of other cryptocurrencies and things like that. Because there is that hard cap and that limited supply on Bitcoin, all the other cryptos are just following it because it's the biggest one. It's got the biggest market cap, and everyone's like, okay, if Bitcoin's doing good, I'm just going to go all in on crypto. Whereas what they should be doing is just focusing on Bitcoin.
Wow. Okay.
What a
well,
wild world.
Let's get back to what you do.
This is what I do.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But
Dude, I hope you're going to chop this up because it's going to be the messiest thing
Yeah,
ever.
yeah.
We just went from college to Bitcoin real quick.
Well, I just like one thing because obviously, I mean, we're gonna end the podcast soon. But I just like, what would you say is the funnest part about doing what you do?
Yeah. I think it would be like having the opportunities to go and visit these places and like having the flexibility to do that. That's definitely the most fun. I mean, I've even done the trips out in the past with like Dan and our other buddy Seb. I've gone out to Bali to visit them, and it's like those are the months where I'm having the most fun, man.
Wow.
And I just think it's special to be able to go experience those things and then see the inspiration for solving problems back here that it brings, or not, right? Like, I go to Guatemala last week, and I just verified that's like, I'm never going to be able to convince people in Burlington, Ontario to use this because they literally don't need it. Like,
Yeah.
our banking system's so solid for all the things it has going wrong with it. And so you just like, it's nice to have that comparison, especially like if you're an entrepreneurial guy and a problem solver. It's like, it's just a great way to constantly be looking for stuff and figuring out where there's a need, where there's a problem to solve. And yeah, that's probably my favorite part about it.
Right. Now, is there anything that you don't like about it?
Yeah, so before, I'd say now I've gotten to a point where I really don't have a lot going on that I don't like, which I'm not saying every day is perfect, and I'm not
Right.
saying every day should be, because I think there should be struggle if and there should be trials if you're growing.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, learning through like something like the agency model that I was doing, I've slowly been like scaling this business down, just because I know I do not operate well when I'm trying to have a proactive day and I got a client calling me that they got some DM about something, and I got to try to contact someone in the Philippines to get back to them, but they're asleep because they're 12 hours behind. And just like that stuff, I've really come to try to get out of my life so I can focus on bigger picture things. And because I've been able to slowly start doing that now and focusing on, and I mean, you got to be practical too. Like, that's why I still do maintain clients and do consulting work and stuff, because you got to pay the bills. But I think having that rounded outness with like just being able to go do big vision stuff and brainstorm and meet new people and see new places is my favorite part about my job, for sure.
Now, are all your clients like are any of them around here, like in Canada or US? Like why would somebody want to come to you to be consulted?
Yeah, good question, man. So most of the consulting work I do now would have come off work that I did with charities in the past. Like, charities are a really funny niche, man, where it's definitely not a space that a lot of people are running down if they want to make a lot of money. But there's a huge need in terms of like most charities today in Canada and the US. They've got a donor base that's passing away, like, to put it bluntly.
Okay.
And they've got a generation coming up that is so skeptical and so careful about where they put their funds because of how screwed we've felt in the past, how much just like scammy stuff we've seen with like even We Day and things like that. And so there's a ton of work that needs to be done there for a lot of these legacy charities to continue. And so that was kind of a place where in my consulting work, I felt, okay, I want to work with a few charities that are having a ton of impact while I'm building these other businesses, and even trying to learn things through there and go places with those charities that I wouldn't get to go to otherwise. So, yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. What's
Crazy.
Yeah.
I love it.
I know you've done like a ton of like marketing stuff for businesses, obviously e-commerce and even online subscriptions, all that kind of stuff. Do you have any like really good kind of case studies, Isaac, of like you took a company from here, you know, almost zero or very little sales, and then growing it to doing pretty well? Like,
Yeah.
do you have anything like that you can share with some of the viewers?
Yeah, so I would say I do have some of those examples, but my biggest wins in terms of like doing work for other people, it's been funny. The ones I'm most proud of are like, hey, I've brought in one thing, but that thing's been an absolute whale.
Let's talk about the whales.
Well, it's like, so little things, like even that mining company, right? It's like, I'm not bringing in hundreds of leads a day, but it's like if I get one lead that co-locates 10,000 miners, like I feel a lot more proud about basically like growing a whole company through one deal.
So it's not about the quantity of the leads, but the quality.
That's how I'm kind of looking at it. That's a good way to say what I'm trying to say. But in terms of like practical like sales growth, like I'd say a big win for me is obviously the Upseat. Like, that's where my wife's working now. I remember like Steve, the founder, is a good buddy of mine, and we'd be sailing on his boat. Like, he'd be showing me this foam prototype he had of this baby seat, and I'd be like making marketing plans and stuff like that. And we were like kind of helping them get it going. And then just seeing where they're at today, it's like, wow, to be able to have had a part in that in the beginning days and to get it going and to build the strategies to get it going. And then my wife kind of getting to come on board and like really grow it with him. That's been really cool. But like, yeah, like in terms of e-commerce growth, the biggest areas of growth I've seen that happens quickly is like, I've seen us grow brands in like 3 months from influencer marketing by like 60-70% sometimes. It's insane. That's really from like things like influencer marketing or just finding the right ad campaign. Like there's this one client I'm working with right now, running all his Facebook, Instagram ads, and we were trying campaign after campaign. Then I just threw another in the mix last week. We spent $3,000 and he made 22 grand back USD. And it's like,
Wow.
okay, so let's scale on that now. So it's little things like that, like just throwing as many matches into the fire pit as possible. And then when one strikes, it's like, okay, I could really go all in. Problem is most people just trust that too much. And then in 3 months it's fizzled out or it's maxed out.
Right.
And that's why it's just so important to constantly be innovating too. So
Absolutely. Always pivoting.
Yeah.
So yeah, like influencer marketing. What can you kind of tell us about that? Like, how does that work? How do you find these influencers? How do they get paid?
Yeah. So when Hales and I were running High Digital, that was probably like our biggest service. Was influencer marketing, and I would say the hardest piece about it, you would think it's all the upfront work of like getting like, okay, I'll put your product in a post or something like that. The hardest piece was actually logistics of like getting someone's address, sending them a product. Like these were like physical e-commerce products. Like we had random stuff like baby jumpers, we had sun hats. Like these are all very random products that it's like to find somebody that their audience is really going to resonate with a sun hat is, and then say yes, and then let us ship one to them, and then take the time to make all these posts in return for a sun hat. It was a really difficult thing. So I think the thing that we got really good at was like presenting long-term value with an influencer and making them feel like they were going to be a long-term partner rather than just like, hey, we'll send you a free hat and in return can you make a post. It's like, no, these people had to realize that it's like, hey, you have influence in this niche. And this is another thing too, like even micro influencers, like you probably heard that term, we found they would have the best conversion rates on their audience because they had such loyal followers. Like you might think you're a small fish, but we still see you as an influencer in this space, and we would just be super privileged to have you use our product. Those just like conversations and keeping it really real with someone in DM was
right.
It just goes the mile, dude. And then I'd say it's literally like a sales process. Like there was days when Hales and I would be in my apartment building out Excel spreadsheets with like 250 people, and then it's like, okay, we should probably send that to Eunice, this girl we have working in the Philippines. She's gonna figure out how to cold DM all these people, and we're gonna test different messaging, and then we're gonna figure out a frequency of like, do we like their photo before we send the message? Do we send the message and then like 3 photos? And that's just kind of like a formula we got really down. So yeah, man. And then the other thing too is I think this is influencer marketing, but I want to make it clear that this is everything as well. And it kind of touches on what I was saying before. Like this could have worked really well for this brand, this formula that we had created and gotten down. But then the worst would be we onboard another brand, sell them the same system we were using, and it doesn't work. And that's where you start realizing like, okay, product really matters at the end of the day. And that was kind of like a big spark for me, man, of like, you could have the most killer marketing in the world. You could have the best strategy, the best formula, but it still is product at the end of the day. Like this thing has to solve a legitimate problem. You have to understand stages of awareness. Like that's a big thing that I learned while we were running our agency is like, when you're running an ad or you're doing an influencer campaign, is that influencer's audience aware? Are they problem aware but not solution aware yet? Are they problem and solution aware? And depending on what category they fall in there, you're like having to compete with, well, I'm the better solution. Or if they're not aware of a solution yet, but they're aware of the problem they're having, it's like, okay, now you got to position yourself as the best solution to their problem too. Or they could be unaware, and now you're spending a ton of marketing budget up front just trying to educate people on why they've got this problem. And so those were kind of 3 categories that when we were doing the influencer thing, I learned really well about what kind of client, if we onboarded them, it was going to be able to work really well was if they were kind of problem aware but not solution aware, their audience or potential target market, then it was killer because it's like, they know they have this problem. They got a sense of urgency about it, but they haven't even gone looking for a solution yet. And we just show up at the right time and it's somebody that they trust. That's like the perfect fit for an influencer campaign.
Wow.
I love it.
Jesus.
That's great.
No.
My mind is going right.
So how many influencers would you guys work with?
A lot.
I
dude.
mean,
I mean, I'll
And how do you find them?
I'll probably throw out a number, and then Haley would be like, it was 5 times more because she was the one crushing Excel sheets.
Yeah.
This is the reason Haley got offered the job and not me.
Thank you, Haley.
She's a grinder, man.
Yeah,
So when's Haley
women
coming on
just
the
have that
podcast?
attention to detail, you know. They know
And
what
she's also a girl, and she just like, that's another thing too with the influencer stuff. In any kind of messaging, like I think we have 4 baby brands that we were working with because like we were kind of able to use what we were doing for the upseat at the time to get some other brands. Like the reason why I gave up a lot of clients and kept a few when that business we were trying to figure out what to do with it is like I could not sit there and come up with copy or even do any kind of quality control for someone doing copy for us and know if this is going to resonate with a 26-year-old new mom. But Haley was able to do that, and she was able to do that really well because she knew what moms want to hear. She was authentic and genuine, like. So I think that's another key, like to anyone thinking of starting an agency and stuff like that. Like try to build a client base of people that you can actually like legitimately communicate with and talk to and have interest in. It's just gonna make like your ability to know whether your work you're putting out there is good or not that much easier. So yeah.
Wow.
And now we have ChatGPT that can write those messages, right? So.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say a huge thank you, Isaac, for being part of today's podcast and give us a little insight what you do. It sounds like you're having fun day in, day out, and
It's
can't wait
great.
to go to Guatemala with you next time. But
Buddy,
one
let's
thing,
go.
one thing we like to ask every person that comes on, if you could tell yourself 20-year-old advice, what would it be?
I would say, kind of what I was touching on before, like really get in community, like figure out. Maybe I'm speaking to guys who are like entrepreneurial or problem solvers and stuff. I'll speak specifically to them. It's like get around other dudes that are like that because they could be lifelong buddies, like this guy for me. And I'd also say like anyone that God's brought into your life right now, really focus and try to figure out why. And I would say that it's like every person that I see and have in my life, it's for a reason. And sometimes there's like 3 qualities in somebody that I see, and I'm like, I'm spending time with this person so I can be more like that. Or sometimes it's 1, or sometimes it's hard to find. But at the same time, you got to know that it's like everyone in your life's for a reason. God's working through people. God's bringing people together. And I would just say, that's another thing. Like really think outside of yourself. Think outside of your daily problems and start thinking macro, man. Start thinking about your relationship with God. Start thinking based on these situations in my life, where's he leading me? Where's he pointing me? Start thinking about others a lot more, like going to Guatemala or somewhere like that makes it really easy because you realize how much you have. But I would say just use opportunities like that as perspective of where you could be and how much God's blessed you with today, and try to figure out why he has. So,
and goals for yourself 5 to 10 years from in the future. Where do you see yourself?
I would say, hopefully saving as much Bitcoin as possible.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm getting really interested and involved in the solar industry. So I'm really interested in where that's going. Also, EV charging and things like that. So, I kind of see myself shifting more towards doing that stuff than just being Isaac, the marketing guy. And that would be really cool to see that happen, Lord willing. So, yeah.
That's great.
Awesome. If anybody wants to follow you, Isaac, on Instagram or
just Isaac Hannekamp.
Isaac Hannekamp, and we'll put it in the description. All that
Awesome.
kind of stuff. So,
well, this was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for
Yeah,
I wish I could have picked your brains more.
Well, you can. We're gonna end it, and then move on. Just want to say a huge thank you to everybody watching or listening. If you enjoyed today's podcast, be sure to hit the like button, and don't forget to hit that subscribe and hit the notifications so you don't miss out on any future podcasts. Thank you to everyone for watching. I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you in the next episode. See you guys.
Yeah,
Boys, I was so scattered.
that was great. Though.